Hey, welcome back guys. Today I'm going to take you over the 7 things that I experienced after adding in more cooked foods to my diet after being a high raw vegan. So let's get into it. Okay, so over this past winter I decided I was going to try and incorporate a few more cooked foods into my diet just to see how I would feel. I saw some other vegan YouTubers that were on raw diets go back to cooked food, and so I wanted to see how it affected me and if I should still recommend for people to eat high raw vegan diets. And so what I did was I started incorporating more beans, lentils, potatoes, squash, and steamed veggies. And so that was usually what I would have for dinner. It wouldn't be every night, but it would be probably 3 or 4 nights a week, maybe 5 nights a week. Otherwise, I would just have my regular salad. But I really got into the habit of eating cooked food for dinner. So it's kind of like the raw till 4 type thing. Maybe not quite as many starches as they recommend, but still I was eating mainly beans, lentils, potatoes, and steamed veggies. Alright, so first thing that I noticed was that I was so dehydrated. I was always thirsty, and I never got that way when I was eating raw. You know, I would eat this big meal of potatoes or steamed veggies and maybe some beans, and then I would go sit down and just kind of be tired from that heavy meal, and very soon after I would be thirsty. And I really wouldn't want to drink anything because I just got done eating a big heavy meal and I didn't really want to mess up the digestion more than it probably already was going to be. So I didn't really like being thirsty all the time, especially when my food normally provides me with satiation plus hydration. That's a big benefit that I feel that raw foods bring to the table rather than eating these cooked foods, even if they're vegan. Second thing was that I overate almost every single time that I was eating these cooked meals. So that is just one thing that I've always noticed when I eat cooked food, is that I always overeat. You know, basically you cook down the fiber to a point that the body doesn't recognize it anymore, where it bypasses that trigger to let you know that you've eaten enough. And so you can just keep piling it in and you just get so full, and that's why you want to go sit down and take a nap, because it's just so heavy and your stomach is just so over full and overworked. The third thing I noticed is that I started getting cold sores again, and I feel like this is from the high protein content of the beans and probably the lentils. Those are probably the 2 things that I added in that I don't normally eat that often, and so you know, over the last 3.5, 4 years I hadn't had a cold sore. And then all of a sudden, now that I started adding these foods back in, they came back. So I decided that I'm probably not going to keep those in my diet just because I don't enjoy having cold sores. And also I want to say that canker sores started coming back as well. I didn't mention that in my last video, but canker sores I always dealt with my whole life, really. It just shows that I was very acidic in my upper body area. And so, yeah, I was always getting cold sores and just really uncomfortable, really annoying. And so being on a raw diet, I didn't deal with that issue, which was so awesome. And now, after eating more cooked foods, they started coming back. So it really just shows me that it's not as alkalizing to eat cooked foods as it is to eat these raw foods that are so anti-inflammatory, full of the water and antioxidants. My fourth thing that I want to talk about is that I actually got a cold. I hadn't had a cold since I started this diet and lifestyle either, until I started eating more cooked foods. So clearly my immune system was not as effective as when I'm eating raw foods. So I had a cold. It lasted seriously like 3 weeks, and I had a cough, and yeah, it was just not fun. And I remember what it was like to be that way. You know, I used to get colds like you know, once every couple months. And so now I don't have to really deal with that. And so the cooked foods, that's just another mark against them that gives me the idea that raw foods are the way to go. The next thing is that I just lost a lot of my motivation, a lot of that spark that I have when I'm on a very high raw vegan diet. I wasn't as motivated, I didn't have as much energy, I wasn't as creative, and that was one thing that really bothered me, is that just for making videos, I just didn't have that creativity, I didn't have that, that vitality that I needed in order to get the energy to make videos. And so, you know, I'm not the greatest speaker as it is, so just to lose that little bit of oomph, you know, it just wasn't working for me. So I had to go back to the high raw diet, which I have no problems going back to it. I love this diet. It's so, you know, beneficial to me, and so that is why I'm gonna stick with it. Alright, so I think we're on like number 5 or 6, and it is dry skin. I got dry skin again. Brought me back to my past of being really itchy and uncomfortable, and that's exactly what started happening again. Not something that I want to deal with again. And it goes back to show how important water and hydration is to everything going on in our bodies. You know, digestion, our skin, our mental clarity, all that stuff. And you know, you don't get the same benefit from just drinking a glass of water that you do from getting the fresh, hydrating, alkalizing water from the fruits and vegetables that still has, you know, the electricity and the conductivity within it, just that life force that really gets your body hydrated. It's just not the same as when you're drinking it out of a glass. So raw foods definitely win in the terms of hydration and water content. And number 7, the last thing we're going to talk about, stinky farts. Yes, I said it, stinky farts. So you know that your digestion isn't that great if you've got stinky farts once again. I went so many years with no stench to my farts most of the time. And now, you know, I'm ripping up a storm and everybody knows it. My bowel movements stink. I can't deal with that anymore. I gotta have that nice flower essence to my turds, alright? I can't have stinky poop anymore. It's just not acceptable. So, yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this little list of things that are reasons of why I will be sticking to a high raw vegan diet. And by high raw, I'm referring to 95 or more %. You know, like I said in my last video, I'm not always 100%. When I do eat cooked food, it's usually something like steamed veggies, maybe some potatoes, but I try to stay away from more of the starchy foods. The beans even, you know, I love beans, but they just don't digest well with me. And I know that people say that if you stay on them long enough, your body will adjust, but you know, I just don't feel that great on cooked food. So if it works for you, hey, that is awesome. More power to you. I'm not saying that it's wrong to eat cooked food, but I'm just saying that my body functions the best when it is as close to 100% raw as I can make it. So that's what I want to share with you guys. I hope it was helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Always remember to follow your raw intuition.
Detoxify your mind and body. Be the change you want to see. Small steps towards living better. Small steps to where I want to be.